Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking to you about cleaning a burette and really just how to set up for a titration experiment. So first off, this is a burette, and the first thing you want to do is check its construction. So if you look, this is called a stopcock, and the whole thing is stopcock assembly. And inside the nut that holds the stopcock in, there's an O-ring, a rubber O-ring, and a plastic of some kind, sometimes it's Teflon seal disc. And that disc needs to be against glass, and it slips against the glass to keep the turning motion correct. And the O-ring needs to be fitted inside the nut. So if it's not in that order, if the O-ring is directly against glass, it tends to bind up and actually really makes the titration difficult. The next thing, you tighten down the nut and make sure that the action is good. And that's just that tighten it or loosen it so that it's solid and you get a little bit of resistance, but it spins nicely. You're really going to get a feel for that through the experiment, so you can change the tension a little bit on the nut if you want to. Next, make sure you note the on and off positions. Off is perpendicular to the pipette, and on is parallel to the pipette. On is when liquid will flow through the stopcock. When it's parallel, off is when liquid will not flow through the stopcock. All right, now we want to clean the burette. So to clean the burette, make sure the stopcock is in the off position because you're going to start adding liquid to it, and grab your deionized water and just squirt some in. You want maybe 1 inch in the bottom, a few mils. There's not an exact amount. If you add more, that's totally fine. The first thing, you want to clean through the stopcock and the tip, so allow some liquid to go through the stopcock and the tip. And there's different techniques for this, but you need to make sure the entire burette gets rinsed one way or another. So you can tilt this sideways and rotate, then let it drain through the tip, whatever you want. My favorite is actually to grab a paper towel like this and actually just flip the burette upside down and open the stopcock and rotate as it drains out. You get a pretty efficient rinse that way. The only problem is drips will end up on the outside. That's not a huge problem, but then when you stand it up, you just clean those drips like that, close the stopcock, and repeat. You're going to repeat this 3 times. I'll just repeat it one more time. I use the wash bottle to rinse all the way around the sides, let some out the tip, shake it a little bit to get air bubbles out if I need to, then close it off, flip it upside down, open again, and rotate as I dump it out. And that's for a pretty quick and efficient rinsing procedure. You'll always repeat those rinses 3 or 4 times. So 3 or 4 water rinses. And next you'll go on and do the same thing with your titrant. So titrant is the solution when you're doing an experiment that goes in the burette. You're adding little by little by little. So the titrant that we're going to be using most in our classes is 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide, and I've got a solution of that here. I'm not wearing gloves right now because it's not so concentrated that you absolutely have to. You're welcome to if you want to. You definitely need to be wearing proper safety attire other than that, because sodium hydroxide at any concentration is very dangerous to eyes. So I'm going to add a little bit to a beaker, and if I were in class, I would then return this to the staging area for all the chemicals, and now I'm going to use the amount in the beaker from here. I'm going to suggest, the way I'm going to show you to do it in this video, is by pouring directly from the beaker, but you can pour in using a funnel. That's up to you, but sometimes pouring in using the funnel causes some overflow problems because there's more liquid in the funnel than will fit in the last little bit of the burette. So that is a good technique. Just be very careful about overfill problems if you use a funnel. And then I'm going to demonstrate it using a beaker and a paper towel, which is the way I personally prefer to do it. So then you can pour from the beaker in like this, and you just again need to fill up 1 inch or so, or 3 to 5 mils. It doesn't really matter. It's just a rinse volume. Let it drain out the tip and repeat the same rinsing procedure as we did before. Whatever your favorite is, as long as the entire thing gets rinsed with each rinse. And that's it. That's how you set up to get ready for the titration. Next, you would fill the burette with a titrant and begin your experiment.